I'm just taking some video of June Fair. So would you like to tell us what you're doing and explain your process a little bit?
This is called card weaving, and it was used in the Middle Ages to make long, narrow bands that you would use like for decorative trim, or like for belts and sashes. In the Middle Ages, the cards, of course, would have been made of wood, bone, sometimes animal horn, or even leather, which had been stiffened with oil or wax. And there are different colors threaded through different holes in my cards. So when I turn my cards like this, see how the red came popping up? And that will make the little red spots that you see down here.
Isn't that clever?
And all of this will eventually become this. The gold thread here, that's where I started this morning. I've done all this so far this morning.
Wow, that's beautiful. Very beautiful. And what is the fiber that you're using?
Plain old DMC embroidery floss. All the Michaels stores in the area know me by sight when they have their 4 for $1 sales. You know, oh no, it's her. She's going to clean us out of black again.
So how long will your band be when it's completely done?
7 yards.
7 yards.
At least 7 yards.
And
Sometimes,
this will be for
a few inches more depending. But
this will be for trim, or?
This will be for trim. This is going to July coronation. It will be one of the Squire's Tourney prizes.
Lucky Squire. Lucky Squire.
I've been doing trim for the Squire's Tourneys for 20 years now, and they usually use my trim as the chivalry prize. I was never quite so honored when the king held out my trim to the fighters and said, "This is the most important prize because it's for chivalry."
Isn't that wonderful? Well, that's absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Your Excellency. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Would you like to tell us about what you're doing, Pernell?
I would love to tell you about what I do. I am making shoes, and here is the master shoemaker, Master Alanis. He taught me how to make shoes.
She calls me that again, I have to whack her.
And then this is one of my students, and she's having fitting problems, and I'm like, oh, hey, let me calm this off.
Take it up with the master.
We're making turn shoes. You make the shoe inside out, and this makes the stitching much easier. And you can see all the stitches, and so if you wore it like this, the stitches would just wear away right away. So you get it wet, and you turn it inside out, and you end up with a shoe that's right side out, and you can see that the stitches are tucked away all nice and safe, so your shoe will last much longer. These are some patents that I purchased online from Historic Enterprises, and I made these shoes to fit inside them. They're very elegant, a little bit too tight, so they're display shoes. And these are the shoes I was wearing yesterday, and they were still wet this morning, so they're display shoes today.
Excellent. Beautiful work. Beautiful work. And you're making another pair of shoes right now, are you?
I am. I'm trying a different technique from a class that I took at Kingdom of An Tir this year that was taught by Godric. And it's less of a period method, but it produces a beautiful 14th century pointy-toed shoe with buckles. So
And where do you get your pattern for your shoes?
well, that method, you put a sock, well, you develop a pattern around it. This method, we wore an old sock and we duct taped around it and drew the seams where we wanted them and cut it off, and then we transferred it onto canvas for our pattern, and then transferred it onto the leather. And
But your historical model for the shape of the shoe and for the style of where you place the seams and so on.
Oh, I did no research on this. I totally went with the class. But if I had my books here, I could look one up.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
And here's a very bad photocopy of a photo of the shoe. But it's pointy.
Very good. Very good. Lovely. Well done. Thank you.
Oh no, I can't make it bigger. No, but I'm going to put some more weight on here. I like that, yeah. Even if it means bringing the bricks along and putting the weight on after the fact.
Well, I put my weight on after the fact.
Yeah, the one I
The weight goes,
that green.
the weight comes off.
You got your camera on, right? I'm going to do it. I'm going to walk
Whether it's okay or not.
I'm going to walk with me, Barry, and go eat something to drink.
All right.
I'm nasty enough.
So maybe you can explain what you're doing, Morgana.
All right.
Well, this is a bowl that I threw yesterday, and it's still damp enough that it hasn't dried out too much, so I'm going to trim the excess clay off of it. I'm recentering it in hopes of getting it nice and even, so when I trim it, it'll seem pretty even. Now, you don't see many European bowls with actual feet like we're used to doing modernly. So you do see Byzantine bowls and Middle Eastern bowls with feet. So maybe this will end up being a Middle Eastern bowl.
And you're doing this by foot power.
Yes, this flywheel is just being kicked. It's a little wet from throwing, but I'm not adding any moisture to it because I'm just trimming it right now. The centrifugal force will get it going, and then I carve or throw if I'm throwing until I begin to drag it down with the weight of the clay and pressure against it.
Doesn't that get awfully tiring?
It does. It does.
You forget how physical it was before motors.
I'm certainly relearning, although the learning curve is a little more steep than I thought it was going to be. And just trimming away the excess. The goal is to have the clay the same thickness all the way through, from the lip to the sides to the base to the foot. And we usually throw the bowls with fairly thick feet because when we take them off the wheel, they're slightly less likely to warp from moving them when they're still wet.
Well, that makes sense.
So I've got a nice, healthy, probably Syrian bowl that I'm going to be making, because I love Syrian designs. Really love them. So what I'll probably do after this is fired and gone through the bisque, I will put an underglaze on it and then put a transparent glaze over the top of that.
That's fascinating. It looks like such fun.
It is. It is. And then I'm just kind of recompressing the clay with my fingers. It has less tendency to crack if you recompress it. Sometimes moisture and stretching the clay and that sort of thing will pull it apart so rapidly that it will crack. So sometimes what you do then is to compress the clay again by pressing it or paddling it or using tools to smooth it. So that is probably all I'm going to do on this one then, until it dries and I put it in the kiln. So it feels pretty even through there.
That's
So,
beautiful.
thank you.
Thank you so much for the demonstration.
Oh, certainly.